Hi, this is Matty's Stanley, and he took a long trip and came to visit us. We live in Finland, so that means that Stanley had to go all the way across Iceland and Greenland and over across Norway and Sweden to get to us. And then after a few days, Stanley came with us from Finland by boat to Sweden, and then he flew with us from Sweden down over the Alps in France and Germany down to Spain and the island of Majorca. And then after that, back to Sweden, back to Finland, and now he's back coming to New Jersey. Now you may wonder where Finland is, so let me tell you, that big red A on the picture, that's where we live in the south of Finland on the coast. It's in Scandinavia. Here's a little closer picture, and you can see there are a lot of islands between Sweden and Finland. My goodness, so many islands. In fact, that red A, that's where our house is. And you can see that we live in what's called the archipelago, an area of islands, and there are 80,000 islands on the coast of Finland. So that's a lot. Funny thing, nowadays you can go on Google Maps and take Street View, and you can look at almost anything, and even our road is on Google Street Maps. So here's our house, taken by Google on Street View, Västervikvägen 139 in the city of Ekenäs, Tammisaari. Here you can even see the 139 that we put up there. Next to it's in front of our house, which used to be a school, built 100 years ago. It's a log building. In the summertime, it looks like this, nice and green. But when Stanley came to visit, it was already fall. Stanley didn't care. He just said he wanted to play in the leaves, so we let him. And Stanley didn't mind when we said we had to go on a trip. He just jumped in the car and off we went. First we had to cross the bridge from our island to the mainland. We went on the road to Helsinki. Stanley said, "Hey, look at that speed limit sign, 100. You can't go that fast where I live." But we said, well, it's kilometers per hour. It's not quite the same as miles. After an hour, we got to Helsinki, another big city. But funny thing about it is that their street signs are all in 2 languages. As you can see on the signs, first it says Kampi, that's Finnish, and then Kampen, which is the Swedish, and Töle, and Keskusta, and Centrum, and Länsi-Satama, and Västerhamn. They're all in 2 languages because people who live here speak Swedish or Finnish, although most speak Finnish. Stanley got all excited when he saw a streetcar, but we said, "Don't worry, you'll have a chance to ride different kinds of things here. Public transportation's pretty common here." And suddenly we started going into a big tunnel that went under things. And then we went along the streets of Helsinki. You can see that it doesn't say "no left turn" in language. It just has a sign with an arrow that points to the left with a red line through it. It means no left turn. It's an easier way for people who don't read the same languages. They sure do have funny names in Finnish, though. Nahkatakit, as it says here. You know what that means? Leather jackets, but you'd never guess. Soon we got down to the harbor area. We were looking for our boat. I'm glad we didn't have to get gas right then. You can see the sign there for the gas station, but it's around $10 a gallon here, and it's been that way for a long time. I don't know how you guys keep complaining when it's only $3 or $4. Well, here's our boat. We're going to drive right into that boat. Well, we had to wait a while first, of course. They have to get things organized and get all those trucks in first. Probably about 50 or 100 trucks. Pretty big. When we got to our cabin, Stanley said he wanted just to rest, and he jumped into the bed. But we said, no such luck. You got to get up. We're going to have to look out, go out on deck, and see what we can see. Wow, and there was plenty to see, too. There are two competing companies that have ships that go between Helsinki and Stockholm, and the other one was leaving just about the same time. And other boats, too. Then Stanley said that he wanted to go do things on his own, so we let him. Then when we looked around, we found him at the back of the boat with some new friends. Next morning we arrived in Stockholm and got up and looked out, and there was the city. It's a nice place. You might want to visit there sometime. It's in Sweden. Time to go down to the car deck and get going. Off we go. We were really only just passing through Stockholm, but we were going to do some things there. There sure are a lot of buses in Stockholm. And the bus system is pretty good, with buses that go down to ground level to get in, so that even if you are in a wheelchair or have difficulty or have a baby carriage, you can get on the bus, no problem. Biogas. Well, Stanley said he was hungry, so we thought we'd give him a real treat. We went out to this huge museum where they were having a chocolate festival. I mean, this place was big. People were competing for first prize. And hundreds of people that were there watching, and the press too. Stanley wanted to taste that one, but we said, gotta wait. And all the chefs were waiting to see who had gotten first prize. It was amazing. Stanley asked if he could have a taste of that one there. Don't they look good? Stanley thought they smelled so good, he just wanted to sit there with all the different goodies. We're talking fair trade stuff, too, and ecological. Pretty good. But a lot of the young kids, I tell you, they went for that chocolate fountain where you just take something like a marshmallow or a berry and you dip it in that liquid chocolate. Well, we finally got Stanley out of there and drove to the town of Västerås and went to the airport and took a flight for Spain, the island of Majorca on the Mediterranean. And we had to hold on to Stanley because he still wanted chocolate, but Ylva held on. That's my wife, Ylva. As you can see on the map, we had to fly over a few countries to get there. And that blue dot, that's our GPS of where we landed. Palma de Majorca. That blue dot there, that's our hotel on the shore. You can still see the blue dot there, down there toward the left a bit. In fact, that swimming pool, that's where we were staying. But I don't know, Stanley didn't want to go swimming. He said something about it might not be good for him. Maybe you can think about why, but I don't know. He did like the view from our balcony, though, out toward the sea. There was a little bay near us with nice sunsets, too. Nice weather. Stanley didn't like swimming, but he wanted to see those boats, I tell you. And he seemed to like the palm trees. We took long hikes out to interesting places where you could get a view. We liked this place a lot. And here I am, taking a picture. And this is the picture I took. And here's Ylva. And this is what she took. One day we decided to explore the island and took a bus into the main city of Palma, and then a funny old 100-year-old train up to the city of Söller, and then a streetcar from there down to the coast, the north coast. Here I am with Stanley, waiting for the train to leave. You probably haven't seen a whole lot of trains like this one. This one was built in 1929. There were some cars with comfortable seats. Stanley wanted to hang out the window even though you're not supposed to. And off we went, past and over the mountains. Tunnel coming. So we took a walk around the cute little town of Soler, and we grabbed a streetcar down to the coast. These streetcars were old too, really old.
Nu har de biljett.
Well, Stanley thought it was cool, but, you know, we'd been around, done things, so we took a plane home. First, you can see there the place we were staying at as it disappears. And then we flew over the Swiss Alps and got back to Sweden, took another boat to Finland with our car, drove home, and went to bed after, well, actually it took a few days. Well, Stanley was thinking it was about time for him to go home, but when I told him that I had some piano students he might like to meet, well, he said he'd come along. So he came along when I went to teach piano. And Kia and Alice thought that was cool, too, to have Stanley there. They had somebody to play for. Kia was playing a song about being able to fly with your own wings and find that the wind will carry you. And so it goes like this in Swedish. Flyg på egna vingar, lyft ditt eget plan. Sikta mot en högre atmosfär. And then I had a student who came with his accordion and played for a while. His name is Philip, and he's over 18, and he was running for city council. And you know what? The day after that, he got in. So he is in a seat of power in government, even though he's just about 18, 19. Which reminded me, it was time to vote. I vote by absentee ballot because I used to live in Wisconsin. So I sent it in to vote in the presidential election and the congressional election and for the Senate, all that. Well, luckily, there were still mushrooms in the woods, so Stanley came along and we picked what they're called trattkantareller, certain kind of cantarelles that they have here. They're really good. You fry them up in some butter, and but lo and behold, we looked out. Next morning, it had snowed. What's going on? Not only that, look who's outside the window. Deer. Stanley said it was time to make a fire, so we did. And then, since I make musical instruments and sell them, he said he'd come and help me and talk to me to keep me awake while I worked hammering in the tuning pegs. It was Halloween, so he told me Halloween ghost stories. Then I got things ready, because I had to go pretty soon to have some music. We took a bunch of the instruments, and he came along. We went out to a place way out in the woods where there's a sort of a sports institute, and there they had a special course for foreigners, most of them Russian-speaking. But it was Saturday night, so we met in this, what's called a kota. It's a kind of a little hut that they used up in Lapland, like Eskimos, but they don't have ice in that way here, so they built it out of wood. And inside we had fun making pancakes over the fire. You have to watch out when you flip them. Stanley ate at least 3 or 4. And then Stanley sang while the girls played. They're playing Jingle Bells. It's a little early for Christmas, but what the heck. And the one they liked best was a song I wrote myself. It's called Black Flame. Heavy, yeah.